Hello and welcome to the Socially Ambitious Podcast. I'm your co-host Liv.
I'm your co-host Jess.
And I'm your co-host Anna.
On this show, we'll be delving into all things social media, delegation, and influencer marketing.
Join us for insightful conversations on mastering work-life balance, pursuing your passions, and crafting the life you've always dreamed of.
Get ready for actionable tips and empowering discussions.
Welcome back to another episode of Socially Ambitious. I am your co-host Jessica, and I will be filming an episode today solo, but not solo. Solo with Nadia, but solo as in the only co-host today, which is still a kind of, interesting format for me to do, but it was so fun, and Nadia made this such an amazing episode. Honestly, we were just firing back and forth. The energy after we got off for the rest of the day, I feel like my vibe was just so high because we just had the most incredible conversation, and honestly probably one of my favorites that I've had in a while, and I just know that you guys will love it. I had on Nadia Khaled. She is a creator specifically in the manifestation space, and she recently launched an app which is called the 1111 app, which of course angel numbers we love. So she's also an entrepreneur and honestly just all around incredible human. Specifically, she is a reality alignment coach. So we absolutely love that. This is such an amazing episode. So make sure that you guys are tuned in and we'll hop right into it. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, guys, we are live with Nadia. I'm so excited to have you on for this conversation. I think you're actually one of our first official Socially Ambitious rebrand guests. And found you through Kennedy, and the OGs know Kennedy is our podcast manager. We've also had her on the podcast. So I love to see that she manages you as well. That's so fun.
Yeah.
But for our audience who isn't already, fully acquainted with you, definitely give them a little bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do.
Yes, well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My
name is Nadia Khaled. I am a content creator, manifestation coach. I have a bunch of different titles, but that's kind of the main one right now is manifestation/reality alignment coach. And so basically, I would say my story starts when it was a couple years ago when I was working as a substance abuse counselor and I was wanting to become a therapist. That was my whole career journey. That's kind of what I had planned for. And so I was working a job as a substance abuse counselor, working overnight shifts, wasn't making that much money. I was in a lot of debt because I was a year into my master's program to become a therapist because my main thing was I just really want to help people. From day one, that's something I always knew I wanted to do. And so basically, I had started making TikTok content just because I've always been a social media girly. I love making videos. And so I really started to get more into that. And it started with funny videos, lip syncing stuff, with trends and things like that. And so one of the TikToks that I had filmed at my job as a substance abuse counselor, it actually went so viral that everybody saw it, including my supervisor. And so it was so crazy how the timing of all this happened. But basically, I had gone on a trip to Miami with a bunch of my friends. And on that trip to Miami, I got so inspired by this. We had a mutual friend who was basically our age and he was living his best life. He had started a really successful business, was living it up in Miami the way they do. And so I remember his friends told me, they were yeah, when he was younger, we were all in high school or middle school, he would always say, I don't care how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get so rich. I'm going to be so successful. I'm going to make so much money. And they all said, he didn't know how he was going to do it, but it ended up all working out for him. And so I was whoa, that's actually that's insane. And so I started reading these books about the law of attraction, breaking the habit of being yourself, learning how to manifest, whatever reality you want. And so I came back from Miami and I was oh my God, I am changing my life. I want to do more of what I want to do with social media content. That's just the direction I want my life to go in. And I had no idea how it was going to happen, but I was whatever. So I get back for my first shift, coming back from that trip to Miami after my supervisor had seen that TikTok and he fired me. He basically was it was a huge plot twist. I was not expecting it. Yeah, I know. It was insane. It was so crazy. So he basically was okay, yeah, you're done. Drove 30 minutes to work just to get fired and take my ass back home. So all right, whatever. But I remember distinctly saying to myself when that happened, I was I got fired from my job and then got rich off TikTok. Kind of same energy of that guy from Miami of I don't care how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make it happen. And I just kind of saw it as a rejection is redirection kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up just manifesting my dream job in social media literally 3 weeks later. And so it's kind of an uphill from there where I started doing, again, more of the social media manager kind of work, dipping my toes more into that industry. And because I had manifested the exact job offer that I wanted, literally down to the amount of money I was making, how many hours a day I was working, the whole thing, I had manifested all of those little details of it. And so I was like, holy shit, like this stuff is real. It really works. And so I was like, you know what? Like, why don't I just ditch this whole therapy thing and just be a coach? Because I had come across this girl who was also doing coaching. So I was like, oh my God, like I could totally do this for other people. I don't have to really get like finish a whole formal education on it. So I stopped my master's and then got my first client in like June of 2021 or 2022. And now I just have a full roster of coaching clients that I help to basically use the same process that I did to manifest their dream life, dream career, dream relationship, anything that they come to me with, really. So that's kind of my story.
Incredible. These are like my favorite kind of stories.
Mhm.
First of all, add me to the roster. I need it. We need to start manifesting the dream life. But
I got
reality
you.
alignment coach, manifestation coach, that
Mhm.
is so amazing. And I do love that you actually do have some sort of formal education because I think a lot of people kind of come on, social media and start branding themselves as something when they don't necessarily have the credentials to do so. But I think it's
Right.
it's just incredible that you were pursuing your master's in something and just kind of like what you said, like the rejection was redirection, and that's so
Mhm.
so 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 important. Like it'll literally like make or break, something that we perceive to be a failure.
Yeah.
And Miami is so magical. I'm actually from
Yeah.
Miami, and so is my
Oh, okay.
yeah, so is my
Nice.
co-host Olivia.
Mhm.
So I mean, like I love hearing that because Miami really does I think it
Inspire.
gets a lot of shit, but Miami's an amazing place and I love that that situation inspired you. But it's crazy like that the series of events that unfolded after that, it was really just like divine alignment. It was
For
like, oh,
real.
okay, this is what you want. Bet. Like we're gonna make it happen. Like
Yep.
no
I
time to
actually,
waste.
it's so crazy that you say that because I always tell people, and I use this as a learning experience for my clients, for my audience, for everybody of like, if I had not been fired, I would still be living that life. I would not have quit my job. I would still be in so much debt. I wouldn't be able to live the life that I'm living now. It was like that had to happen. It was like the universe literally giving me an out to be like, go pursue this. This is literally what you've been asking for.
Yeah.
So it's like I could have gone in a different direction and been like, oh my God, this is so humiliating. No, I need to go find another job in the same field or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like sometimes like certain things align in certain ways because you're meant to pursue that lane. So
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes unfortunately, like we don't have the experience to know when like we need to leave a situation, right?
yep.
Like,
Yep.
potentially like being broken up with or being
Mhm.
fired. Like that is like the universe,
I
universe
love that.
forcing
Yeah.
us out of situations that we might not have left on our own. So
Oh yeah.
it's really like so important to look at these, situations with a new light and like just what opportunities lay ahead of us. I actually saw a quote recently that said, "You've been wishing for a rose when the universe is trying to give you a garden." And
Oh
I was
my
like,
God. Yes.
I
I
was like,
love
bars,
that.
bars. Like
Yes. Boss.
I sent it to
Straight.
fucking everyone I know because I was like, this is
Yeah.
even me. And like, I'm sure
Yeah.
you even feel this way. And like, people who have been on like their spiritual or manifestation journey for a long time, like,
Hmm.
and I was actually just looking at your TikTok and I saw the TikTok that you said, which is like, if you want it so bad, it's because a future version of you has it. And I think that we can
Yep.
potentially like lose sight of that sometimes, like that we wanted
Hmm.
more for ourselves, yet the universe
Mm.
is like trying to give it to us by redirecting us in these different ways.
Oh my God, 100%. And what you said that there's also a quote that I always go back to as well. And it's that you don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need.
Absolutely.
And the other one is like there are things that are so good you wouldn't even know to ask for them. But if you can learn how to just surrender, you
Exactly.
can let the universe like orchestrate in the best way possible. And like the other thing I wanted to touch on as well was you mentioned, sometimes things like fall apart. And it's like, how do you really know if it's the right thing or not? Something that I felt was really interesting was when I got fired and I was literally leaving the building, for whatever reason, I felt relief, which was so
Mhm.
weird because I just lost my job and it was out of nowhere. And it's like, what is happening? But that was my intuition being like, girl, this is a good thing for you. And that's why a big piece of my message as well is like, your intuition always has the right answers. And a lot of people just make a habit out of like not listening to it or being like, well, I don't have the logic to prove it. But it's like the feeling is enough. Like that version, of your consciousness, your intuition literally knows everything, whereas your logical mind doesn't. So it's like just
Mhm.
go with the feeling and just trust that that is the truth for you.
Yeah. And of course it's easier said than done, but it's a muscle. and you
Oh
have
yeah.
to exercise that muscle in little ways like throughout the day. You
Mhm.
get a feeling. You're like, I feel like I need to go outside and get some fresh air. I don't know
Yep.
why, like my mind's not telling it, but my body is telling me. Listen to that. Maybe that's your body trying to protect you from an anxiety attack or something of that nature. Like
Mhm.
maybe your body says, or your intuition says, it's just these little redirections. And then once you have something larger, you'll be more in tune with that intuition because you've used that muscle more, and it'll be
For sure.
easier for you to be able to listen to and like listen
100%.
to it more confidently.
And the other thing that's interesting as well is like, um, I always tell people if you learn how to listen to your intuition, you are always by default moving into the direction of your dream life because your intuition is always pushing you towards the things that are aligned with your like best, most
Hmm.
like highest possible
Highest self.
path. And it's like you said, sometimes your body's going to say to you, let's go up and go for a walk. You don't know if like your intuition is like you're going to meet somebody on that walk that's going to bridge
Mhm.
the gap for you. That's going to like change everything. So it's like you never really know why you're being pulled to do certain things. But if you can just listen to that feeling alone and not question it, again, you're always going to be doing things that are aligned with where you want to go, point blank. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
know it like logically to know how it fits into the picture, but it always does.
And you're living in like your highest frequency. You're
Yeah.
just like vibing. Like
Vibing.
life is just carrying you and you're just genuinely like floating through life. And
Hmm.
even like the other night, like my friend invited me to this like movie premiere here in LA with like a red carpet. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm down. Never done that before. Sounds so
Hmm.
cool. Couple hours later, my like body was screaming at me to not go.
Oh, interesting.
Even though I was like so down previously, but like I could have gone. I could have mustered up the effort to go, the energy to go, but my body was like, you don't
We're
belong
not
here.
feeling it. Yeah.
And I was like, bet. I hate to be flaky, and my friends
Yeah.
know that, and I have that privilege of being like, hey, I genuinely don't feel like this, and my friends are so incredible and they understand that. Because I
Mhm.
think a lot of the time we feel like a pressure, someone's relying on us, but people who get it. And
Mhm.
like if you're saying, "Hey, I'm not meant to be there," you're not meant to be there. And that's it. Like
Period.
no question.
And that's enough. And it's so crazy because like I think that pressure really does exist to like,
Mhm.
deny what we're feeling or like
It's the
resist what we're
devil.
feeling. It's literally that, but it's also, I mean, any chance I get to talk about the patriarchy, I will, but like we have been raised, if you're listening to this and you were raised in the US, like the capitalism and that hyper masculine, like hustle grind mentality is literally woven into the fabric of our country. We have been raised to like again deny those like urges to do something or not do something because it doesn't fit into
Mhm.
into the schedule or into the whatever. So it's like a big piece of that puzzle as well is learning how to trust yourself and be like, you know what, if I don't feel like it, I don't need to go, and there's no
Mhm.
pressure, no guilt. And especially like you said, it's so important to surround yourself with friends who get it and won't like force you or try to get you to like deny yourself either. It's like, no, I got to follow my inner compass, and everybody should, and that's
Yeah.
how we all win. So
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to take it back to what you said. It was one of the quotes, and it was
mhm.
one second,
You
it's
may
gonna
not
say
get what you want, but you always get what you need.
the one after that. It was oh, you don't even know what to ask for. And
Yeah, it
like
could so
you
good you
just don't
wouldn't
know
even.
how good it'll get. So I wanted to expand on that because I think it's like it's a little bit mind-blowing to me because we only really think about the things that are within like our immediate reality. Like we don't even like know how good it can get. And like
Mhm.
I think that we find ourselves living in a bit of a lack state, like
Mhm.
just not realizing like what is accessible to us. So what are like little tips that you use to like kind of break down those mental barriers and like expand your horizons a bit when you're manifesting and kind of like you want to open things up to things that might not be even within, what you think is in within your reach right now?
Oh, such an amazing question. And I'm so glad you asked. Because this is huge. So many women struggle with this because we feel this pressure to know everything about what we're
Hmm.
asking for. And
Hmm.
even I have sometimes been guilty of making content of like, you need to know, like earlier back in the day of like, get super specific. What do you want? But the
Yeah.
number one, like the first tip I would give is like, and this is what I say to my clients all the time, like, you start to get overwhelmed when you really feel like you have to know the full picture of what it is that you're manifesting or what it is that you want. And the example that I like to give is when I was manifesting my dream car. And this actually goes to your human design map as well. Everybody, based on their birth time, place, and time, place, and day, you have a whole chart that basically
Writing
tells
stuff.
you how you're meant to manifest. Yeah, you should. Like it tells you how to manifest, and it says if you're a specific or non-specific manifester. And so people who probably struggle with, I don't really know exactly what I want, you're probably a non-specific manifester like myself. And what that means is you don't have to know the exact quantities and qualities of what you want. You just have to know the feeling. And so again, taking it back to that car example, when I was, manifesting my dream car, I used to think I had to know the make and model of like, okay, I really want a Range Rover. That was it for me. I was like, okay, Range Rover, that's my dream car. I've driven it before. I like it, whatever, that's it. And so I kind of learned that like, okay, all I need to really do is focus on the feeling. What would my dream car feel like? It would feel luxurious. I would have a really good sound system. It drives really smoothly. It feel like it's perfect for content creation in particular. That was a big one for me. And so the way things panned out, I actually ended up with a Lexus. And it's crazy because the inside looks identical to a Range Rover, but it's actually upgraded because the dashboard, or like the screen, rather than it being like straight forward, it's like literally tilted towards me. So I just have to stick my phone on there and I literally have the perfect angle to create content. Again, the interior was red, which is what I loved about the Range Rover. So it had all those qualities that I really wanted from the Range, but it was actually packaged in something that fulfilled that dream car slate much better than the Range Rover would have, because the Range Rover is also just comes with a whole like host of issues and things like that. But anyway, so it's like that's the number one tip is you don't have to know all the answers. If you can, even with like your dream job, so many people get so tripped up of like, well, I don't know what dream job I would want. Like, you don't even need to know the label, babe. If you can just describe to me how many hours a day do you want to be working, what kind of work would make you feel fulfilled, even if it's just creative, even if that's the only thing that you know, that's fine. You can start with what you know. Again, income, how many hours you're working, are you like, what is your work environment like? Put that down and let the universe fill in the gaps. Because once you if you were to get a job offer, you'll know off the bat if it's the right thing, the feeling of what you've been asking for or not. So that's definitely the first thing. You don't have to know all the answers on the offset. Second thing is like, let go of the need to control. Like you really have to surrender, because I think we all fall into this pattern, especially if you're a woman who's more in her masculine, meaning you're type A, you like to get things done, you're super organized, super on top of all your stuff. You like to know. This is also like another muscle that you're going to have to strengthen, or like you're literally learning a new language of like, you don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to know how you're going to get from point A to point B. You can simply know that it's going to happen and let the universe orchestrate the little masculine details of the when, the where, the how, the who, right? It's like, you got to fully let go. And a lot of women tend to act from that space of like, okay, well, I'm manifesting making this much money a month. Like I gotta like do stuff. Let me like plan stuff out. And I'm like, it's actually not about what you do though. It's about how you feel when you're doing it. And if you're coming from that lack state of panic, oh my God, I gotta like figure this out. You're not manifesting your dream job. You're manifesting something that is in the frequency of that panic and that like, oh shit, I got to get stuff going. So it's like, if you're ever overwhelmed with the urge to do, and it feels like it's not coming from the right place, sit back and relax. And just remember, the universe will handle that part for you. Anything that's unknown to you, it's already exists. And it goes back to what you were saying about how like you only want what you want because a future version of you already has it. If the future version of you already has it, that timeline already exists, which means that there is already a bridge of incidents to bridge the gap between this reality and the next. It's already real. It's already exists. You know what I'm saying? Like the universe
It's already
has
written.
those things. It's already written. So if you can just like sit back and let the universe kind of serve it to you on a silver platter without you overwhelming yourself with how you're going to do it, that's how everything comes together perfectly.
And when you're referencing manifestation, right? I think a lot of people think manifestation is typically something that goes on in our heads. Would you say that your preferred manifestation technique is something that's simply like thought about frequently, or do you think that writing, scripting, pen to paper is where the magic happens?
I love your questions. You're asking all the right manifestation questions. This is amazing.
Yay.
So what I would say is, so let's go back to what manifesting really is, because I think some people tend to assume that manifesting is just like, okay, if I want to manifest this one positive thing, or if I want to manifest this other thing, we're all manifesting 24/7. That process does not stop. As long as you are breathing, living, thinking, and feeling, you are manifesting. It's simply a question of what are you manifesting, right? So and the main way that we manifest based on our energy is our thoughts, or the things that we think about the most frequently, and your emotions. And those are two forms of energy, right? Your emotions are a very powerful form of energy. And when you're putting that out into the universe sends you back situations, people, resources of that same frequency. So really, when it comes to manifesting, there is no right or wrong way to do it. It's just about figuring out what works best for you and what allows you to tap into the feeling of what you want and what allows you to program your subconscious with the belief system that is necessary for you to get it. As an example, if you're somebody who is always telling yourself, I'm always forgetting people's names. And it's paired with the feeling of like, oh shit, I don't remember their name, right? If you do that frequently, you're going to manifest more of that. So really, again, manifestation just comes down to what are you thinking and feeling very frequently, and whatever tools make sense for you to alter your emotion patterns and your thought patterns. That's effective, right? There's no right or wrong way. You could script. Some people connect really well when they're writing stuff down and they really feel it. They really get into it. Other people need to listen to affirmations, or maybe other people need to like meditate more often. There's like different modalities for different people. It's just about allowing yourself to find what works for you.
Yeah, it's more about like finding what vessel works for you. It's not like you have to do XYZ.
Correct. So if you're listening to this and you ever see something, because this used to overwhelm me so much when I was getting into manifestation, people would be like, 369 method, you got to go in your journal, write it 369 times. And I would be like, oh, fuck. And then I would do it. And then I would feel so overwhelmed when I was doing it that I would completely defeat the purpose. It's like you're supposed to feel how good it is. Not, you know what I'm saying? Like not pressure yourself to do it like, 369 times.
Yeah. And kind of what you said about like, if you always say that you forget names, like that simply like that is what that's going to be your life now. I cannot stand when people either say like, oh, I can't XYZ, when it's like something that like they probably could work on, like, oh, well, yeah, I just, I can't lift weights because XYZ. I'm like, well, like, no, you definitely could. You're just like, what you're doing
choosing not to.
Yeah, you're writing this narrative in your head of why you can't. And I just think and like people who even just like speak negatively like about themselves, like even if it's in passing, like, oh, I'm so clumsy, oh, I'm so forgetful, I'm so stupid, or blah blah blah, or like I'm like, or you know what, the one that gets me, I'm always late.
Oh my God.
Are we
that
accepting?
one?
Are we accepting that? Like that's your like you're running with that. You're running with that one as like your reality. And I think the issue is that a lot of people make these things their personality trait. And I mean, I think we're all guilty of it in small ways. Like, when I was fucking in college, like I made it my personality trait to be a drinker. Like I was the girl who could like keep up with the guys and like, I mean, my podcast was called Whiskey and Water up until like 2 months ago because whiskey was like my thing and my brand. And it's like so crazy to me that like and the thing is I remained in that reality for so long because I had made it my personality and I fed into that narrative versus like, and I didn't like want to change versus now I'm like, I rarely even drink whiskey. I'm honestly, I've rarely been drinking at all these days. And like, it's crazy, like how just like a mindset shift, like putting that like identity aside, you're like, I mean, it threatens the ego slightly, but there's so much more for you on the other side when you drop these things that you think are like personality traits because they're not like aren't these things that you do,
100%.
It's crazy.
Such a good point. And it's actually reminds me of the first book that I read that completely launched me into this whole spiritual awakening, like manifestation coach journey. And it was a book called literally Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And it was the first book that introduced me to the idea that you really are not, like your personality is not concrete. It's actually extremely malleable and you can totally do a complete 180 with your personality if you just know how to reprogram your brain. Because like you said, you are not those traits. You are simply engaging in those traits and you are mislabeling yourself as that person.
Yeah.
And it also goes back to like everything about the way you act and behave ties to your self-concept, which you can always recreate whenever you want. You used to be the girl that drinks all the time. Now you're like, whatever, maybe you're like the wellness girly or whatever. If you just get to choose whatever self-concept you feel like resonates with who you want to become and program your brain to start thinking and feeling that way. And that becomes your personality, which again is always changeable.
Yeah. And I love that you said like that you mentioned that book because that was one of my next questions for you. Like, what were the books that kind of like launched you into this and kind of like even like the books you're reading now? Because I think that we really like severely underestimate the power of books. Like books have, and it's funny because like even as such an avid reader as I was, I kind of fell out of it. And I feel like I hit a plateau and I was like trying to figure out where this plateau came from. And it's because I wasn't reading and I wasn't like exposing myself to new knowledge and, new perspectives. So you said it was called The Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Are there any
That's
other
the first
books
one.
that you like
Um,
you would like absolutely you have to read these?
100%. There's one of them is called The Power of Now, which is by
Always.
Eckhart Tolle, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
But that book,
That's a must.
that's for every single human being on earth. Like
Yes.
you got to read that one.
It's literally my Bible.
For real, same. I mean, like I got to reread that book at least once a year because
Mhm.
it's too good. So
Powerful.
that one, there's also another one by that same author called New Earth. And if you're somebody who struggles with spirituality and religion and kind of finding where you fit, that book will literally, you will not be the same. You
Mhm.
will not be the same once you finish that one. So that's another really big one as
I
well.
need to reread that one as well.
Yeah, so good. And then the other, like this is a series of books, but it's Abraham Hicks.
Okay.
It's like the
Love
Law of
him.
Attraction series. Yeah,
Yeah.
so good. So that kind of gave me more of like kind of a little bit of spiritual aspects of manifestation and how to, or like what are kind of like the general rules of what you need to be doing to stay aligned with what you want and kind of like not fall into those human tendencies of like doubting all the time. It's like giving yourself for full permission to surrender and things like that. So that's another, I think, go-to for me as well.
I love that. And I think again, like kind of just like how people underestimate books. Like I'll have friends that are like going through things and I think I was lucky enough to have found books at spiritual books at such a young age. Like I think I read The Power of Now when I was like 19 or 20 or something. And like I so like I have these tools and I have these, like these ideas and like these understandings of how life works and how spirituality works and I'm like, listen, if you read this one book, you will no longer like
That's
have
it.
these problems. Like
Yeah, literally.
read this one book and your life will change. And that's how serious it is. And that's how like important, especially like The Power of Now and like you said, A New Earth. Those are the two that I recommend people like always. Like if you're gonna start anywhere, these
Those are the
you have to.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I genuinely think that like if everyone read The Power of Now, I think this world would be such a better place. It's insane.
Genuinely. And it's like, it's information that you feel like, once you do read it, you're like, oh, that makes complete sense. Like, where did I lose the plot as a human being to like not, but it really
Where
just
did
feels
we
like
all
you're
lose the
coming
plot?
back. For real, for real. And I think, like you said, knowledge really is power. And anytime you're at a plateau, it's just that you're not exposing yourself to enough new information to inspire you and like give you the tools that you need to really change. And it's so funny because I literally made a TikTok like 2 years ago about the power of now and breaking the habit of being yourself. And I literally start off by saying, every time somebody asks me if I have a favorite book, I make everyone in the room shut the fuck up so I can talk about how amazing these two books are. They have like the power of now solved so many emotional issues that therapy never fixed for me. Like
Yeah.
that's how serious it was.
Yeah.
And everybody I think needs that kind of exposure for sure.
When I sometimes like I rent out my apartment if I'm like traveling for a long period of time or whatever it may be. And when I was bi-coastal at one point doing Miami and here and LA. And whenever I'd go back and was renting out my place, the only two books that I would leave on my nightstand were The Power of Now and A New Earth.
Period.
I'm like, if you need to read these.
It's right there. It's a gentle nudge.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, and I love that. I saw that you launched an app, which is
Mhm.
is it 1111 app?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Incredible. First of all, I
Thank
mean,
you.
I love it. It's something that's incredibly aligned with you. I would love it if you talked a little bit more to our audience about what that is and what inspired you to launch it.
Oh, yes. This is a great question. Thank you for asking. So with 1111, basically, so in my work with clients and even in the personal transformation I had for myself, affirmations have been absolutely revolutionary. And the main reason why is because so many people ask the question like how do I stop overthinking or how do I stop thinking these negative thoughts or like limiting beliefs, and I'm like it's not about stopping the negative thoughts because you're never going to stop thinking, the thoughts are always going to come. It's about learning how to redirect your brain to a different thought when it thinks one that is not aligned with you. And it's like I always talk about how everyone has this internal GPS. If a certain thought is making you feel really low vibrational, like really like low emotions, it's because that thought is not aligned. And it means that it's not based in truth or reality. It's literally an illusion that your mind has come up with to kind of keep you in the same spot or kind of maybe like protect you from a threat that's not really there yet. And so again, this is where reprogramming or redirecting to a thought process or a thought that feels better for you. When you read an affirmation or you read a quote or something that like instantly gives you this like lift or like, oh, wow, I'm so inspired. And it's like completely changes the way that you're feeling in that moment. I like to describe it as like I mean, obviously your internal GPS is saying, yes, that's aligned, but I also say that's your intuition letting you know this is something you need to start programming into your belief system because it's going to help you get to where you want to go. So for me and myself, like my personal transformation and in the work that I'm doing with my clients, a lot of the focus is on how can we reprogram those pesky limiting beliefs that keep coming up, right? The stuff that you've been conditioned to believe from childhood, your biggest fears, your biggest traumas, and give you a system like, with like little daily habits where you're constantly exposing yourself to these new beliefs until by default, your subconscious mind is like, cool, that's our actual belief system now, because that's the thing is 95% of your reality comes from what beliefs are encoded in your subconscious mind. 95%. This is like where the law of assumption comes in of what you believe to be true without needing evidence. That's what manifests in your reality, right? So the thing about your subconscious mind, like we said, that programming is really important, but a lot of people don't realize that your subconscious mind actually cannot differentiate between what's real and what's fake. It will believe anything you say to it over and over and over, right? Going back to what
Just
we were
gaslight
talking about.
yourself.
Seriously, just gaslight yourself when you're thinking to your, oh my God, I'm so bad at remembering names. You've created that as a belief, but it's not because you're actually bad at remembering names. It's because you thought that thought a few too many times, and now your subconscious mind has agreed that it is a fact, quote unquote, right? So all you really need to do to switch out that belief system is give yourself those affirmations that kind of counter those limiting beliefs or represent the opposite, like energetic signature, and reprogram your brain by constantly, repeating that exposure, reading them over and over, seeing them everywhere. And so I really wanted to develop an app that gives you a way to do that passively without having to remember, because personally, what I used to do is I used to write affirmations down on Post-it notes and stick them everywhere. I was going to see them all the time. My desk, my office, my bedroom, bathroom mirror, the whole nine. And that was really helpful. But I was like, man, I really wish I could get these notifications on my phone because I want to see these affirmations like on my phone. I'm on my phone all the time. So that's how 1111 came together is like, okay, how can we give people a place to find new affirmations, sort through them and use their intuition to find the right ones, add them to their favorites list, and have the app actually send them those notifications throughout the day. So that's kind of how that came together. And so that's how the app is actually built right now. There's like tons of categories that you can choose from. My personal faves, and probably from your listeners as well, this will be their favorite as well. But it's the social media presence and the fame and legacy categories. Really helps you step into that, like, celebrity energy, like my content inspires and uplifts people. Or, if you're ever feeling kind of like self-conscious about your social media presence, scroll through those affirmation feeds and choose the ones that really give you that feeling. And when you add that to your favorites list, the app will send you those notifications throughout the day. And as you continue to see them over and over, right, eventually what ends up happening is your subconscious mind accepts it as a fact, and it actually starts showing up in your reality. And I've had a few people actually reach out to me that have used it for that exact purpose of like social media, content creation, like changing their energy towards that stuff. And this one girl went from 0, she had just started a new page, to like 35K followers just from exposing herself to these affirmations about your social media presence. Like it makes the world of a difference. And so that's pretty much the premise of the app. And it also, I've added what's called affirmation audios just to make it a little more interactive. So it's me basically saying a bunch of affirmations in kind of like a meditative state with meditation music in the background. So you can play those at any point in the day to also reprogram your subconscious.
I'm obsessed. I'm sold. I've downloaded immediately. I'm gonna literally put a link in the show notes so that everyone can download that as well. I think that's like such a game changer. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm definitely really proud of it. It's something I spent a while kind of working on, and now that it's actually out, it's really exciting. So thank you.
I love that. I would love to know more about like the, kind of coming into, of course, like as a content creator, you are an entrepreneur, but now launching this app, it's a whole different ball game, something that you've probably never been, exposed to or done. So what was that process like, deciding that you wanted to like launch an app and then, taking the steps to actually fucking do that?
Damn, girl, you're asking all the right questions today. I actually love telling this story because if I could go back to myself from a year ago and tell her you're going to develop an app, she probably would have been like, what the fuck are you saying? How do you even do that? Where do you even start? And this is why my biggest message is like, if you want to do something, just decide it's going to happen. You don't have to know how you're going to do it, because oftentimes that overwhelms you to the point where you don't do it. So basically,
I'm literally in that place right now, so I understand.
Yeah. Yep, you get me. So, Yeah, I basically, had been thinking about the app. I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to do that because I have a lot of self-help apps that I personally use, and I'm just obsessed with creating systems that like people can use to change their lives. So I always kind of had an idea that I really wanted to do that. But again, didn't stress about the how, didn't worry. I was like, you know what? It'll find me at the right timing. It'll all work out perfectly. And so, one of my friends who's a content creator, he happens to be really well connected, and he knew these two guys who were Gen Zs like myself, literally like 23, 24 years old. And they actually build apps for like small business owners at a much cheaper rate. Like everything just aligned so perfectly. So he basically introduced us. We got on a call, and I told them about my idea, and they're like, "Oh, we could totally do that for you." They kind of broke it all down for me. They handled all the actual tech stuff. I just got to be there as the creative, as kind of like the decision maker. They would send me stuff for approval and all that good stuff.
Fire.
So I didn't really have to lead much of anything. I attracted the right team. Again, just by deciding that it's something that I wanted to do, I kind of let it unfold on its own, and it just kind of took off. So now the way that it works is they built out this incredible app for me. They're called App Labs. If anybody's interested in starting their own app, highly, highly recommend them. And so they built all that out, and now they have built out a dashboard for me. So whenever I want to update the app with new stuff, I want to add new audios, add new categories, I do it in 10 minutes from my dashboard. So like all the dots kind of connected, and I didn't have to really worry about any of that until
Yeah,
it
it's like
came
a
up.
new age website, literally.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Well, I love that because it also just goes to show like how in alignment it was for you because like the universe truly will like conspire for what is in your highest self, and that just goes to show it.
Truly. True. And that's why it's also like, you don't have to know. There are some things that like if I would never have been able to even construct the like visual or like the idea of these two guys coming in and helping me so perfectly. And on top of that, it's like I mentioned that they were Gen Zs, which is huge because if
Yeah.
you're working with app developers, they need to understand you and your vision.
hmm
And so even like I said, these little aspects that I would never have known to ask for of like, hey, make sure they're all Gen Zs too. And make sure, like
Yeah.
you just let go, you give the universe so much creative potential to work with, and it'll happen in the best possible way for you.
Yeah. Something that me and my coworker say when we're doing like affirmations or manifestations is like, show me how good it can get. Like,
Period. That's such a good one.
just show me how good it can get. Because I don't know. Like, you literally just don't know. Like, the universe has like so much in store for us that like we just have like no idea that we have access to. And that just like goes to show.
100%. And I don't know if you saw this TikTok that I made, but it was one that was really popular for a good reason. It's because it boiled all this down to an analogy of like, if you are in a relationship with the most incredible man, and I'm talking like he is top of the line, he knows you so well, he literally studies you, he knows exactly what you would want, he has your best interests at heart because he's literally obsessed with you. And if you knew that you guys were gonna get married eventually, would you sit there and ask him when and how and where are you going to propose to me so I can be ready? No, no, because that ruins the surprise. You're not going to try to plan your own proposal. So it's like
And
kind
you,
of
and
getting
you
into that.
trust.
Yeah, and you trust that, and if we're talking about your dream man and the universe, like universe is your dream man on steroids, babe. Like that's like the all-knowing. You know what I'm saying? So
The
it's like
universe is your dream man on steroids.
period.
Bars.
Masculine. Yeah. And that's just, I feel like a big part of it too, of like this whole manifestation process, like learning the more feminine approach to attract instead of chase. It's like healing your relationship with the universe or with God or whatever you call your higher power. You got to be able to trust that if you're going to let go. And if you have this like doubt or, fear, you can't fully let go like that. So it's like, ask yourself, what is my relationship with my higher power? And how can I learn how to trust that a little more?
I love that. I love that. Are there any other tips that you would give someone who loves the idea of manifesting, but has that difficulty like connecting those dots in their mind, or maybe they feel silly or they don't feel like it's working. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. I would say, because there's so many different tips I could give, but like, what is one?
Well, I think
Um,
not to like answer the question for you at all, but
yeah.
what you had said earlier, it's kind of about like the medium potentially, because journaling might feel silly to you. I'm like
Mhm.
answering my own fucking question. Journaling might feel silly to you, but maybe like affirmations don't, right? Something like that along those
Yes.
lines.
Yes. Okay. Here's what I'll do. Number one, I have a free vision book guide that you can actually include in the show notes if you want to, where it's basically
Absolutely.
like teaching you how to get clear on all areas of life. So I would use that to kind of just like generally set some intentions. And then
Hmm.
the next thing I would say is, and this is something that I feel like works for literally everyone because it's a way to reprogram your subconscious and naturally feel happier without having to try. But basically, there are two times in the day where your subconscious mind is the most malleable and receptive to new energy and new ideas. And that is in the morning, right as you're waking up. Like before you're fully conscious, it's like you've woken up, you're a little bit conscious, and you're slowly getting into full consciousness. It's at that point in the day, and also right as you're drifting off into sleep, where whatever kind of energy you're in, your subconscious is going to magnify that while you're sleeping, and then you're going to be manifesting from that point. So I would say, when it comes to that morning, like AM and PM ritual, again, at those subconscious prime times is what I call them. Give yourself a list of 3 to 5 what I call alignment rituals that you can do. And you just choose every morning and every evening from that list, whatever one you feel called to intuitively, that's the right one for you to kind of avoid getting in this super regimented masculine way of like, oh, I got to do this exact thing every morning or whatever. Like give
Hmm.
yourself the flexibility. And from the 3 to 5 alignment rituals, it can be meditating, it can be journaling, it can be affirmations, it can be an EFT session where it's, I don't know if you've heard of emotional freedom tapping, but it's basically kind of like meditating. You're just tapping in different
Hmm.
meridian points in your body. So it can be any of those things, but you just make sure to do them every morning and right as you're waking up and every evening, right as you're going to bed, and notice how differently you feel in a week.
I love that. I think that's like such really great tactical advice. Also,
Mhm.
something that I feel like has been a game changer for me is that like I'm fortunate enough to not to wake up to an alarm.
Mm,
I mean, last night I went to bed at literally like 9 p.m. So like I woke up
yeah.
early as hell for no reason, but I've programmed my Alexa to play to wake me up
Ooh,
with frequencies every morning.
yes, that's such a good idea.
Because
Such
it's
an
like
amazing idea.
you don't
Yeah.
even have to think about it. And I think it like
Mm-mm.
just immediately like elevates your frequency because I mean it's like so incredible to like wake up to like
That
nice
energy.
calming frequencies and music versus you know?
Well, and that's actually the biggest thing from breaking the habit of being yourself that made me realize of like when you wake up in the morning, there is likely a set of emotional patterns that you cycle through every single day. For
Yeah.
example, if you hate your job every
Yeah.
morning, you're probably waking up at the ass crack of dawn and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go to work today. This is so annoying. That energy sets the tone of your whole day. That's what people
Yeah.
don't realize, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you said, or even what I tell people to do is like before you actually sleep, set it up on your phone so that you already have a meditation on YouTube kind of like queued up and you can just
Mhm.
unlock your phone, press play, and then go back, not go back to sleep, but like
Yeah.
rest and allow yourself to wake up to that meditation. Even if it means like setting your alarm like 10, 15 minutes early will make the world of a difference, truly.
I love that you said that because and you know we always hear how important a morning routine is, but I think that
Mm.
what people neglect to understand is that it is the energy that you will hold throughout the day. And that's why they
Yes.
say, you know, don't get on your phone and do these. And I'm so guilty of this. I literally like will scroll on my phone all morning. But
Same.
if you engage in these like, you know, either high cortisol or high dopamine or whatever it is, like that's what our body will then be chasing for the rest of the
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
Or, you know, like let's say that you engage in like a high cortisol activity, such as like checking your emails. You see that you have a stressful email. Guess what? Now your cortisol levels are spiked for the rest of your fucking day. And it will
Period.
actually, it like will ruin your day. It's just, it's science. You know what I mean?
It's yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so important.
100%. Very, very important. Yeah, and I think like that's like a micro shift again that will make the
Yeah.
world of a difference. It will just like set you up to start building some really amazing momentum. And the other thing that I also want to touch on as well, because this is huge, is when you're a woman, you have to learn the woman feminine way of manifesting. And a lot of us are get stuck in the masculine way of manifesting, which is totally different. So men have the same 24-hour hormone cycle, meaning they have the same energy levels every single day, right? And when I remember how I was saying like this, our country, like that energy is woven into the fabric of everything that we do. That's why you have the corporate 9 to 5 structure
Hmm.
every single day, the same grueling schedule and routine that was built for men, right?
Yeah.
Women have a 28-day hormone cycle. We're feeling different energies every single week. So it's like learning with your manifestation routine based on those 4 phases, whatever phase you're in, adjusting your expectations relative to what you're doing to make your goals happen or manifest your dream life according to what energy or what hormone phase you're in. So, for example, um, if you're in your luteal phase or you're in your menstrual phase, your body's asking you to slow down and chillax and take care of yourself, not push yourself to get things done or plan or create new things. So it's like just learning how to adjust your manifestation routine and your expectations for yourself based on where you're at in your hormone cycle will also make the world of a difference, because then you're not beating yourself up when you're not, trying to work on your period, which doesn't make sense.
I actually got targeted by another app and I downloaded it, and it's called Lively. And have you heard of it? It's a like cycle syncing app. It like won't, it's not like natural cycles. Like I don't think it's like, it doesn't act as birth control, but it will tell you what phase that you're in, and it'll tell you like what you should do. Like it has these little icons. Right now I'm in my
Yes.
I think I haven't updated this, which is my fault, but it says I'm in my luteal phase, which means I need to, reflect
Slow
on
down.
my personal life. It tells me eat dark chocolate, apple, cilantro,
Yeah,
hydrate,
girl.
take action, like it tells you all these things. And I think it's like, I want to pay more attention to it, especially as, someone I'm very in my masculine all the time. And I'm like, I'm always constantly like strength training as well. And I'm kind of realizing that I need to kind of like, especially as we get older, like, listen to our bodies a bit more. But yeah, I think that's like such a strong tip. And especially for women who, experience PMDD and just like really strong, brutal periods. It can get so serious that we have suicidal thoughts, leading up to our periods. And I'm one of those people who like, severely struggle. So I think it's such an important tip that like certain affirmations at certain times, like will help you so much. Cause it's like, when I'm like hanging on by a thread, I'm not going to be like, you're going to be famous. Like I need to hear like, I need to hear you will survive. And
truly,
like you are safe. You know what I mean? So I think that's like such an important tip.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's exactly why I formulated 1111, where it's like anything that you're feeling, there's a category for that. There's literally one called rest and recharge, to like give yourself permission to just like chill out, which is like huge again for like women like us who are like go, go, go in the masculine energy. But yeah, and another thing, because I also struggled with PMDD for a really long time, and I had no idea that like brutal periods are actually not normal, and that if you struggle a lot on your periods, it means there's something seriously wrong with something in your body, and that like it's good to try to like figure that out, because it is really tough when you're literally to have suicidal thoughts every month is actually wild. Like that is not normal. It should not be normalized. Like if it really is that bad, there's definitely something else going on. But that's also why it's so important to know how to take care of yourself when you're in that state. Because imagine feeling suicidal and then trying to force yourself or pressure yourself to do things that you don't want to do. It just is, it creates like a shitstorm. It's not good.
It's not aligned. And when it's not aligned, it's like, it's going to kind of affect every other part of your life too. It's just not going to work out. So
exactly.
And it's so true. And even kind of going back to what you said about like the patriarchal energy is truly woven into the fabric of this society, because like it's insane.
You're the school system. You've been going to school from 8 to 4, 8 to 5 since you were in preschool, babe.
Yeah.
And we were
taking
all taught
exams while we're literally shedding our
dying.
uterine lining. Like it's like bleeding out. And like I've always had periods that like and cramps that were like so bad that like I was both like felt like I was going to throw up and also lightheaded and like passing out. And we're expected to work,
push through.
Insane. That's
figure it out. And it's like, that's what I'm saying is like, for your whole life as a woman, you have been asked to reject yourself and put your needs to the side in order to satisfy a corporate agenda. And this is where it comes to like taking your power back, is like, I'm not forcing myself to do shit, girl. I'm on my period. Leave me alone. I'm not doing anything. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I literally have, because the first day of my period is always the worst with cramps. I literally have my first day of the period like set to all my business partners and employees, and I'm like, don't ask me to do anything on this day because I'm out of office, and that's such a privilege. But again, it's just kind of like working with your body versus against it.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because with my own team, like I have like a few employees that I work with, and like I have this rule. It's all women, and I have this rule. I'm like, if you're on your period, don't do anything. I actually don't want you to work when you're on that vibe, because like you said, it's not aligned. Even if you were to try to do work or force yourself to do things, it like in the grand scheme of things, it actually wouldn't advance your goals at all because you're not in the right energetic space to be doing that stuff. So
Yeah,
it's like give
exactly.
yourself permission to just literally do nothing and just practice self-care in those times. And like you said, it is definitely a privilege, but I think that's what every woman should be working towards or should be manifesting is a lifestyle where she gets to honor her own needs before anything else. Because that's true alignment.
Exactly. And if like, and the same goes for any of my employees, like they'll text me like the day before and they're like, I need a mental health day tomorrow. And I'm like, take it,
Do
take
it.
the week,
Do it.
actually. I'm like, do you want,
Literally.
I'm like, I'm actually sending you to Sandals, Bahamas.
Period.
Have fun.
No,
But
literally.
it's
And so
so
rebellious
important.
of us to do that too, because that's not the environment that we grew up in or that we kind of worked in. It was always just like, what do you mean you want the day off tomorrow? You're on the schedule. You better bring your ass in. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's insane. But I think that, through women leaders like us, it's like we get to,
Change the paradigm.
Yeah, exactly. Like push back in little ways and, make small differences where we can.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, small differences add up. So, I mean,
Exactly.
for me personally, every time I get to work with a one-on-one client, I'm so excited because I'm like, your whole world is going to change and you don't even see it coming.
Yeah.
Like complete shit. And it's like there's a glow that happens. Like I feel like when women are kind of stuck in that patriarchal mindset, there's a very obvious like deflatedness in their aura and their energy. Like it's but then when they start implementing that feminine approach to life, it's like they get that glow back. They're
Yeah.
like, I learned how to take care of myself, learned how to live life according to my needs. Everything else follows suit from there.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And this has
Yeah.
been such an amazing conversation. I'm obsessed with you. This has like been one of my favorite
Likewise.
conversations I've had in a long time. I feel like it just flowed so well. Like I'm going to be sending this episode to all of my friends. I'm like, okay, if I don't tell you to listen to episodes a lot, but you have to listen to this one because it's so
Period.
so good. Thank you for coming on, sharing your
Of
wisdom, sharing your
course.
knowledge, and just being here today and for the messages that you've shared.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here. I agree. This flowed so nicely. I have to know your zodiac sign because I know everyone's birth charts.
Was gonna ask you too. I'm a Libra.
Slay. I'm a Pisces, but I have noticed that there is like a really good flow between Pisces and Libra energy. So this is just
I love
spot on.
that.
I love it.
What's your moon in?
Taurus.
Okay, and your
What
rising?
about you? Virgo.
Okay. Cancer
Yeah.
moon, Aquarius rising.
Oh, Cancer moon makes complete sense because I feel like when there's really good moon synastry and Taurus and Cancer are like besties.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just everything is just there's like a really palpable synergy there of like we just get each other emotionally. So definitely felt that. And you said
Oh,
Aquarius rising.
yeah.
Oh, girl, you're probably going through a lot of shifts right now in your life with Pluto going into Aquarius now. I mean, everything's being turned inside out.
I've been going through some shifts for a while now, but
Yeah.
there's no complaints there. Like again, everything is happening for me, not to me.
I was just
Um,
gonna say that. Yes, it's all happening to you, never. I'm sorry, it's all happening for you, never to you, which is an
yes.
amazing quote to live by.
I love that. Well, again,
Yeah.
thank you so much. If our audience wants to keep up with you, follow you, download your app, where can they find all the things?
So I'm on Instagram, Nadia.Khaled, with two Ds. Same thing on TikTok, Nadia.Khaled with two Ds. And then 1111 Affirmations is available on the App Store. If you want to get the link for Google Play or the App Store, you can just go to 1111affirmations.com, all one word.
Oh my God. Thank you guys
Yeah.
so much. If you guys like this episode, please take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram, tag us, tag Nadia, and let her know how much you loved the episode. And we will see you next week.